What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Winnable podcast. My name is Jason, and we're here in beautiful Miami. This is episode number 1. And on this podcast, we're going to do a few things, but mainly we're going to be speaking to a lot of people in various industries and their stories on their successes, failures, and the trials and tribulations that got them to where they are today. But before we go to our special guest, let me introduce my friend Dan, who will be co-hosting with me on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. We're in beautiful Miami. I don't think you can get a better background than this to go ahead and talk to some very important people, interesting stories. And because it's the Winnable podcast, I don't think we could have had a better first guest than the CEO and founder of Winnable, Noah Traceman. Welcome to the first ever Winnable podcast.
Thanks, guys.
What's going on, Noah?
Not much, man. Enjoying the nice weather.
Yeah, we're essentially at his house.
Yep.
Doing this first podcast. It's the headquarters of Winnable. He's the CEO. Very interested. I know his story well, but I think it'd be great for the viewers to hear about it. Noah, how did you get started in this great handicapping industry?
Well, I started my career working in health tech and was fortunate enough to be a part of, a company that was acquired early in my career. Moved to New York, was doing consulting, opened up a restaurant, and that restaurant was really my first introduction to the power of influencer marketing and the IRL business that people with large followings on social media could drive. I actually opened a restaurant with a friend who had no experience. It really had no, I think, shot of being successful, but it ultimately was very successful thanks in large part to people like Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, Gwyneth Paltrow eating at the restaurant.
What kind of food are we talking here?
Italian food.
Nice.
Pretty
the
good
name of the
Italian
restaurant?
food. Doppio Artisan Bistro, and it expanded to 6 locations, 3 brands, Timeless Hospitality Group, Hamptons, West Village, Oliver, Connecticut. And my time in restaurants was definitely defined by not making a lot of money, but making a lot of friendships and a lot of really strong relationships. And I was able to monetize that a little bit through collecting and selling art and, doing various real estate deals. But I had this gnawing urge to leverage my skill and experience as a technologist with my increasingly valuable Rolodex. And it wasn't really until the pandemic that I had my first opportunity to do so. I had been working as a director of strategic initiatives for Quest Diagnostics in the early days of the pandemic. They were public enemy number 1. If you guys remember, the testing shortage wasn't something that I was feeling passionate about or very good about in general. So I quit, spending a lot of time on my couch in LA, and I realized that there had been a feature set introduced by Instagram without a lot of fanfare. You guys remember the close friend lists?
Yeah,
of course.
Not a lot of people used it,
No.
back in 2020.
I was on nobody's close friends list. I don't know.
Nobody was on anybody's close friends list because nobody really knew what to do with it. And I had an idea. A lot of the friends that I'd made, over the course of my restaurant career and living in LA were influencers, actors, DJs, and they were all kind of like going broke during the pandemic. The actors couldn't act, DJs couldn't DJ, models couldn't model, and most of them had been living kind of beyond their means before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Was that typical during that time, or was that something that you kind of discovered with your connections?
I mean, I don't know if somebody who wasn't, friends with people in the entertainment space would have been, as aware that was going on. But I think everybody, kind of thought that it was the blue collar workers who were the only ones impacted by the shutdown. But Hollywood was impacted as well, and a lot of these people were confiding in me. So, I told them social media was probably the best way for them to make money. Problem was brand deals were fewer and further between, and they were paying less money. So they had no way of monetizing their audience on socials without brand integration. Nobody was paying them to post, so they couldn't make money off this really large and engaged audience. Until I started a company called Green Ring, which was the first payment processing solution that allowed influencers and celebrities to sell subscriptions to their close friend list on Instagram. And it really exploded in popularity amongst the influencers and actors that I knew in LA. We launched with some of the stars from The Vampire Diaries, Twilight, Gossip Girl, and we're selling thousands, tens of thousands of subscriptions between, $3 and $5 a month to be added to these celebrities' close friends list. Where,
like, you're seeing more than you would normally see if you were just like going to their public profile.
yeah, I mean, it wasn't anything that exclusive. I mean,
Right.
it was exclusive content, but it was really just friends, family, food, fitness, memes, day in the life in the pandemic. I mean, keep in mind, everybody was locked inside.
Yeah.
Everybody had watched all of Netflix, and especially, some of these actors from these hit TV shows, their fans have an insatiable, demand for content from them. And this was a way to encourage them to make more content and also give their fans kind of a more intimate, relationship with them. And also, frankly, part of it was clout. I think a lot of people are like, shit, I'll pay $3 a month to be able to show all my friends that the celebrities added me to their close friend list.
Makes sense.
Was there anyone on the top of your head that was like the biggest one on that platform?
Ian Somerhalder, for sure,
Okay.
from the show Lost and The Vampire Diaries. He also has brothers Bond
Terrible
Bergman.
ending.
Amazing guy, amazing actor, amazing audience. He was definitely our biggest. Paul Wesley, also from The Vampire Diaries. But what Green Ring really showed me, was that premium content, exclusive content, there was a major market for it. Unfortunately, in our few conversations with Meta, there were some early overtures that they might be interested in acquisition, acqui-hire. That didn't come to fruition in true Meta fashion. They ended up announcing that they were going to be paywalling exclusive stories native to Meta, which really damaged our upside, made us somewhat uninvestable, and forced me, to kind of think about how big the business could truly grow. Now, the business is actually still operational. Took Meta 2 years to roll out those feature sets, but the ceiling was lowered substantially. But, the benefit, the silver lining was that I'd kind of built a reputation and shown some of the influencers and celebrities in my network that I could be more than just a restaurateur with maybe an interesting tech background. I could actually think in an innovative, creative way as it related to making them money, and be of value to them, during the pandemic. So this was a time where a lot of celebrities and influencers were kind of, I think, rethinking whether former real estate agents and nightclub promoters were the best people to manage them. And I launched a social media management and talent agency. It was able to grow really quickly. We signed about 60 people within the first 60 days. And the most shocking part of it to me was that all of them were asking about a paywall platform. It wasn't Green Ring. It was, can you guess?
OnlyFans?
Yes.
Well, and during the pandemic, right? Also, there were a lot of people on the couch, not just watching Netflix.
Yep,
I'd
for sure.
imagine,
They're
right?
watching a bunch of spicy
Watching
content.
some spicy stuff. You're bored.
Yeah, exactly. So everybody that I was working with wanted to know more about OnlyFans, and my initial direction to them was, don't even think about it. You are going to risk a lot. You might have a friend or a friend's sister or family member who's making, $100,000 a month in order, to take their clothes off on the internet, but you're making $100,000 to DJ in Ibiza or to act on a TV show. Those day jobs will come back after the pandemic, unless you start rebranding yourself as a porn star. And I had a change of heart after meeting some people who were using OnlyFans and were making hundreds of thousands of dollars without doing any actual nudity, maybe some PG-13 stuff, but nothing much different than what you would see on TikTok or Instagram these days. And what I discovered was that the problem with OnlyFans was really the stigma, this corny and porny stigma that it had developed by going to market with adult content creators.
Sure.
And that there was an opportunity for an upmarket OnlyFans, essentially. The Soho House of OnlyFans is how I envisioned it. And I was...
So before we get into this next venture, I think a lot of people are interested when you're saying you are managing all these OnlyFans models. So what's that? So obviously you're not a pornographer. You're not coming from that background. And you're managing all these girls. Just take us through, what is that like? Do you get desensitized from, just normalcy? Do you feel like you're just, on? Because I always wondered that. I'm like, how do these guys even like walk the earth if they're just staring at nude people having sex all day?
Nobody who I managed had sex on camera.
Okay.
It wasn't like what you would imagine, like hardcore pornography. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions about OnlyFans is the content's locked, so you assume the worst is behind it. But 90% of the creators I knew on OnlyFans were doing PG-13 or rated R content at worst. And the ones that I managed certainly fell into that category. So, yeah, I mean, desensitive to a certain degree, you become desensitized, but you also look at it as a business. You know, like
Sure.
I could see, naked girls on TV or on the internet whenever I want. And, I've been around photo shoots in the past. I understand that there's a business behind it. And when you're running the business behind it and you're making as much money as we were, I could care less about seeing a pair of tits. I wanted to see,
See dollar signs.
more zeros,
Yeah.
behind the numbers we were producing. So,
It's like being in the cannabis business, and you don't
Yeah.
want to get high in your own supply.
yeah, a lot of people thought it was a lot more glamorous than it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was exciting, and I'm sure in the early days, there was maybe some novelty to it, but it was always about business for me, and
And your prior venture helped you launch and get into this like much more quickly. And
yeah, it all dovetailed very immediately. My first clients with the agency were clients of Green Ring, and my first clients on Dream, the OnlyFans competitor that we launched, were clients of my agency. So, it kind of all unfolded.
So just to stop you there, so you went from Green Ring to creating the agency, and then your next business was Dream, right?
Yeah.
So just so then people can recap, like, what was Dream?
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted it with trying to find out some spicy content. He didn't go for the bait, guys. He didn't go for it.
Yeah, your imagination.
It's too professional.
I'm sure your imagination is much more
Yeah.
thrilling than the reality. But
Sure.
but yeah, so after seeing the amount of money that people could make on OnlyFans without having to do what I thought was career jeopardizing content. I mean, if you look on TikTok and Instagram, half the models on there are posting content that was exactly the same as what I was seeing these girls and guys do on OnlyFans. And so I partnered with a couple people and I was introduced to by a friend, ironically a real estate agent, as I was, just lamenting them earlier. And we very quickly launched what was initially called Glow. Glow Up Digital was the name of the company. And our flagship platform was first Glow. Then we had to change the name to Dream because Target threatened to sue us, even though we had trademark. And I was able to go to my management clients and say, hey, I've got the solution to your financial woes or your desire to be on OnlyFans, and it's Dream. It's a Soho House of OnlyFans. It's invite only for talent, application only for subscribers. We've solved a lot of the technological problems that make OnlyFans non-viable for you. We use perceptual hashing to watermark every single pixel of every photo and video to make sure that leaked content could not only be identified who leaked it, but that we could also prosecute them under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. A couple of cease and desists.
I might have been involved in some of that.
So Dan was actually our general counsel for that venture as well, and he helped, I think, build out the privacy security elements that were really important. And then another thing, that's
Wait, so if someone wanted to screenshot one of these like content creators' photos, it'll get watermarked and they'll know who.
every photo and every video sold on the platform over $100, which was 99% of the content, that would have a watermark. It's called perceptual hashing. It's technology typically used in healthcare and in the military, but that I had some experience with, and it allowed us to know, whether they cropped out the watermark or put it in grayscale or tried to edit it some way, there would be at least one pixel with the watermark remaining, and we would use a scraper that would essentially scrape the internet like every 5 seconds and look for those watermarks. Once we found it, we'd be able to identify that unique watermark with the person who'd purchased it and leaked it, and we could sue them under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act for 100x the value of the content for every instance of leakage. The reality is that I don't think we ever sued anyone, but those cease and desists that were also automated started to make the rounds on Discord,
Scare some people.
Reddit, Telegram.
And I'll also add the value of it. What's great about the act and for, the content producer is, the copyrighted material is hosted by somebody else, right? So when you go ahead and send them this DMCA complaint, no matter what, they have to take it down and sort of wait for the sort of dispute and response process. So, like, obviously knowing with the watermark that it's yours, you're not going to get anyone to bring back evidence saying it should be there. Anyway, we're not going to get too much into legal stuff.
I think the way this ties into Winnable, which I'll get to next, is that Dream won in large part because, there was a void in the market. There needed to be a more aspirational upmarket alternative to OnlyFans, but also because we built the best product with the features that we heard our users needed. Our creators and the creators on OnlyFans were telling us that the most important things to them were, one, privacy, eliminating the leakage problem, the dissemination of this private content. And the other big problem was the Bella Gate. If anybody remembers, Bella Thorne sold a picture of her pussy for $200 to a couple 100,000 people, and they all charged back the purchase because it was a picture of her holding her pet cat. That resulted in OnlyFans limiting the price of content to $200 per piece of content. And that wasn't really fair to the creators that we were working with, the top 0.01%, right? That would be like if the New York Stock Exchange put a cap on stock prices at $200. That's fine for 90% of businesses, but if you're talking about Amazon, Tesla, Apple, they're fucked.
Yeah.
The creators we were working with were the Amazons, Teslas, Apples of the influencer space, and they needed to be able to price their content at 500, 5,000. We had people selling content for 15 or 20,000 to billionaires in Russia and Asia.
Dubai,
yeah. We used to, actually I shouldn't know, sorry, but we had one guy in particular who was spending, $100,000 a month, no problem to him, a billionaire from
That's
Spain.
incredible.
Yeah.
So anyways.
So why'd you stop, or I guess move on from that venture? That sounds super lucrative.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Like, how'd you get into Winnable and what we're doing right now, and why we're sitting here today?
Yeah. So Dream was very successful very quickly, similar to Green Ring. And we were raising a $15 million seed round at a $75 million valuation. One of the investors was going to be PLBY Group, Playboy Group, the owner of Playboy, Honey Burdette, Lovers, and Yandy at the time. And they decided at some point that they were more interested in acquiring Dream rather than investing into it. And I'll be honest, I wasn't thrilled with the price. And Dan and basically everyone else was very happy with it.
But I understand what Noah's saying. For me, Noah brought me onto this project. I was happy to assist. Noah and I have been friends for a long time. And to find out after, maybe it was about 2 months into my journey to it.
Yeah, 11 months after forming the company, and I think 8 months after launching, we got an offer for $30 million.
Yeah, so I was happy, but I understood what Noah was saying.
Yeah, I was, it's great, but I had partners, we diluted ourselves with some previous fundraising. I wasn't certain that it was time to sell. This was also the time that OnlyFans was announcing that they were getting out of the adult content space. So I thought, there might be some blue sky, as did Playboy, apparently. And ultimately, truth is I never signed the definitive merger agreement. But, the rest of our shareholders and my co-founders kind of pushed the deal through. And I was happy with it, in the end, because it allowed me and Dan to focus on what I think is a much more lucrative intersection, which is that of sports betting and social media. When we were building Dream, I would use some pretty light, predictive analytics to try to identify creators and how much money they would make on our platform. And we would use that to calculate a guarantee against future earnings for those creators. So in a way to accelerate our growth, as well as to compete with OnlyFans and Patreon at the time, we would say, okay, I can project that this influencer is going to make $15,000, $20,000 in their first month on Dream. So I have no problem giving them a $5,000 or $10,000 draw against future earnings that will recoup in the first month and will allow us, to compete with these larger, better funded platforms.
Sure.
And what I started doing was saying, all right, are there other creator spaces that might be able to perform at a better clip even than the exclusive content sort of space we're operating in? And we looked at psychics, astrologists, fitness gurus, business coaches, and underwhelming to say the least. And then we stumbled across sports betting influencers, and I realized pretty quickly that these people were growing at a rate that I'd never seen, especially for people that didn't look like they were spending any money promoting or marketing themselves. I didn't see them doing six-figure monthly ad campaigns on World Star or The Shade Room or Today Years Old or Nugget, these big meme pages. I didn't see them doing programmatic ads, yet they kept growing and growing and growing. And even more important than their organic growth was their engagement, the number of comments that they were getting, the shared posts. Sports and sports betting content provided kind of this perfect cocktail of virality because it was event-based. It was something people were really passionate about, and it naturally incentivized and motivated people to share content that was relevant in that given moment, in that given evening. And I was like kind of blown away and figured I need to talk to some of these guys.
And Jason, you can kind of talk to that too, right? Like,
Sure.
Didn't you? So you were sort of coming from a different space, and you probably around the same time that Noah and I were starting this venture, you were seeing kind of the same thing, right?
No, for sure. I mean, a lot of it just came from my background in finance, and I saw a lot of like opportunities where you can actually bet and use analysis to make great bets and make money. So I started off as a bettor, but then through social media, kind of to Noah's point, you can scale it and get your opinions out there and get to a larger reach and monetize like your knowledge in a much more sufficient way. So I thought the sports capping space as a sports capper was a great opportunity for me to make, some side income and then eventually make it to what it is now.
Yeah.
But for sure, I could definitely understand what you're saying. Like,
Right.
It's time-based. It's every single day. There's always something new. And, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of money in it because people bet underground, legally, everywhere across the world. It's 24/7, too.
Yeah, and going to that, like Noah, so ultimately when we landed on this,
What I was
we
really
created?
surprised by was that when I reached out to these sports betting influencers, first off, amazing, sort of unique element of calling on sports betting creators rather than Instagram models as your target, B2B sort of sale, is that they open every single DM. Instagram models do not open any DMs from people they don't know because it's a lot of, dick pics and inappropriate stuff. Sports betting influencers, handicappers, open every message because it might be somebody who wants to buy their picks.
Still a lot of dick pics, though.
So I was
right, Jason? Still a lot of dick pics?
Hey, you'll
so-
disclose client information.
I hope not. So I was fortunate enough to be able to get a hold of a lot of these guys, some of the biggest guys in the space really quickly. I was able to get on the phone with No Brainer Wagers and Cody Covers Spreads, some of the bigger guys, but I talked to dozens of them. And, with the exception of maybe some of those big guys like Cody and No Brainer who were spending quite a bit on ads and had built out a somewhat sophisticated infrastructure, 90% of the sports betting influencers and social media handicappers I spoke with, I was pretty surprised with how much money they were making. And it was much less than I would have expected them to make if they'd been using Dream. And I wasn't really sure why. But it became very obvious when I saw that these were very intelligent people with a lot of skill and experience in a very specific thing, which was predicting the outcomes of sporting events and player performance. What they weren't very good at was hacking together a meaningful e-commerce environment with the absence of Shopify, Stripe, and Twilio. And even though sports betting had been legalized, these people were considered to be running a gambling business, and they were not allowed to use Stripe, Shopify, or Twilio, which meant that they were either hacking together a piecemeal solution using WordPress, which was devoid of a lot of the most important features you need in e-com. But in most cases, it was even worse. They were using Discord, Telegram, Cash App, Venmo, Zelle, some of the lowest trust, highest friction communication and payment processing mechanisms. And this was dramatically inhibiting their earning potential. And that was, I think, really the I'd say like the point where I knew that we could sort of run it back with some of the infrastructure we'd built at Dream and offer a similar solution to a market facing similar dynamics with, you know, a platform like Winnable, and to make it an even more, you know, no-brainer, you know, for our team, we figured out what the growth was coming from. You know, they weren't just growing because people love sports and love sports betting. They were growing this big because there was a not only 6 or 7, but in many cases 8 or 9 figure monthly budget being spent on growth. It just wasn't them spending it. It was the sports books and the pick'em apps. You had Prize Picks, FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, Caesars, the offshore books that were throwing money at recreational sports fans in the form of sign-up bonuses and deposit matches, which was effectively paying recreational sports fans to become sports betting. I'm sorry, they're effectively paying recreational sports fans to become sports bettors, but they were creating millions of novice sports bettors who didn't know what a money line or a parlay was. They didn't know what an over or an under was, and they were all flocking to Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube looking for guidance on where to bet this found money. So the exponential growth was supported by a fuck ton of ad dollars. They just didn't have to shoulder any of it. So with all those market dynamics in mind, we actually just reskinned a former OnlyFans platform or competitor that we'd sort of thrown together before Dream and branded it as sports betting. That platform was certainly successful in spite of its feature sets and its technology. You know, you still had to check a box that said you weren't 18 before you posted a pic. It was a little janky, but we were able to see some early traction, you know, get to from zero, I think, to about $250,000 a month in GMV really quickly. I think we got just about to $1 million in GMV over the course of our MVP, and we decided to shut it down. That was a really tough decision, but I think...
What year was this that you decided to
This
shut
was the end of 2022.
Okay.
November of 2022, I think, is when we realized that the scale we were achieving, the platform wasn't built to support it. And more importantly, that the feature sets that the platform contained were not the right feature sets for sports betting influencers. It covered some of the stuff, subscription management, payment processing, but there were a lot of nuanced needs for this specific creator, just like the OnlyFans space had, that we wanted to innovate around. And, you know, this is when we ultimately, you know, partnered up with some Stanford, you know, computer science engineers, you know, including Brandon Garcia, you know, Forbes 30 under 30. He similarly sold his last startup for 8 figures in 2021, and we decided to start over from scratch, building Winnable from the ground up. And that is a platform that I think can be defined by our attention to the nuanced needs to handicappers, most importantly being our ability to deliver picks via SMS. We're the only sports betting or sports betting adjacent company that has the ability to deliver picks via SMS. And that is a testament, you know, I think, to our team being deliberate in our launch and attentive to the regulatory environment and successfully petitioning Twilio and all of the major American cell phone carriers that we are, in fact, a First Amendment protected information exchange that, you know, is more in common probably with Substack than a sports book. And SMS is very important in modern marketing. If you look at Community, you know, Ashton Kutcher's company, they raised, I think, $100 million from companies including Twilio because they recognize...
Without a shower. $100 million without a shower. That was the Ashton Kutcher joke.
Oh,
he doesn't shower.
yeah.
I don't know if you...
Yeah, and raised $100 million, him and Guy Oseary, on the simple premise that influencer marketing was getting too noisy, email marketing was dying, and that SMS was a superior communication mechanism, that you'd be able to ensure a 95% receive rate and a 70% response rate, and all of this would be accomplished within 90 seconds, opposed to email where you're looking at 90 minutes, Telegram, Discord, and some of these other Instagram, social media messaging, you're looking at even longer, upwards of 2 hours. And we had kind of cracked the code to be able to offer that to our handicappers. This is especially important to handicappers because when you're selling picks, what you're selling is actually an edge. And an edge that you discovered expires very quickly, as you know, Jason.
No, I mean, I have to, like, it's definitely true. I mean, remember when I first did it, I used to post my plays on my close friends. I used to add friends manually or my clients manually to my Instagram close friends. I had so many different things I had to do, like to accept payments. We could take, I mean, I've heard people have taken crypto before. Everything Noah's mentioned. So, I mean, this was game changing. Like the features that you have now, like.
And crypto would be like a huge solution. It would have been a huge solution for Dream, for OnlyFans, for us. The reality is most of the world is not crypto literate and not able to transact in crypto.
And it's so volatile.
Yeah. So, you know, taking some of the learnings from working in somewhat eccentric, challenging payment processing environments, as well as, you know, building a platform for our target audience or our target user, you know, in a B2B and a B2B to C setting. I think we made the right bet, you know, no pun intended, on SMS because, like I was saying, the edge is only as good as the line lasts or the odds last. With the sophistication of sportsbooks since its legalization and the digitization of sportsbooks, you've seen in 2017, 98% of sports bets in the United States were done at a brick and mortar casino. In 2022, 99% of sports bets were done on mobile apps. That has made it much more accessible, which is great for us. But it's also allowed the KYC, the know your customer at the sportsbook level to increase drastically, and their ability to consume and digest data, update their lines, manage their risk. You know, it's moving fast, and if you want to sell a pick that is going to have the highest likelihood of delivering a winning result, and if you want to buy a pick that has the highest likelihood of delivering a winning result, then getting the pick as fast as possible and placing that pick as fast as possible is the most important thing, bar none.
100%.
And I, you know, even today, what I'm starting to notice, to Noah's point, I was looking at the NBA playoffs today, and I liked the Pacers line at 5.5. Early this morning, it was posted, and within an hour, it changed to 6.5. Right? I like that. I just didn't get in my pick in quick enough. Now I'm at 6.5. Watch it be a 5-point game. But to Noah's point, these lines are changing almost like live betting, like lines than the past used to.
Yeah.
So it's very important to get that out fast.
No, sports betting is just a market, man. I mean, the lines move 24/7. All you need is someone that's viewed as a sharp. To Noah's point, the KYC can identify people now. They know a sharp is betting a certain way. They'll move the line. If enough people bet on a certain side, they'll move the line. So even for guys that follow me, when I set on my pick on Winnable, it's been game changing because I'm like, get the pick right now, place it before the line's moving. Especially for things like player props, they move very, very fast.
And even just think, like, as a capper, one of the probably worst things you can get is you're giving a whole bunch of lines, and then all your messages are like, what are you talking about? The line is 209.
Yeah, the line moved.
The line moved.
I can't find the bet anymore.
Exactly.
One of the best ways, in my mind, actually, to assess the skill of a handicapper is looking at their CLV. You know, like closing line value is ultimately the best indicator I've seen, other than actual full transparent, you know, bet tracking, is closing line value. You know, what price did you get in at? Did you get in at -9 and it moved to -15? Did you get in at -110 for the, you know,
the spread of a game?
The spread, you know, like if you're consistently getting positive CLV, you're probably going to do well. And the only way that your subscribers are going to get the same CLV that you do is if they place a bet in as close of a time frame as you did. And so, you know, SMS, critically important. And I was talking earlier about the KYC. Part of the reason that I think Winnable was such an important piece of technology to build when we did is because the risk management includes sports books banning winning bettors. The best bettors in the world cannot bet a fraction of the amount that they need to afford their lifestyle. The best bettors in the world might bring home, a 10 or 20% ROI on their bets annually. If they can't get in millions of dollars over the course of the year, they're not going to make any money, or not make enough money at least to afford the lifestyle that they were used to. So we're seeing a lot of the best bettors in the world. A lot of people ask me about Winnable. They say, why would somebody who's so good at betting sell their picks? Wouldn't they just bet and win the money themselves? And the answer is,
They can't.
yeah, if they could, but they can't. You only have so many beards. You only have so many friends and family that you trust giving money to place those bets for you. And once you run out of those people, or you get burnt by one of them, I think the obvious answer is that you need to sell your picks, and you can actually make probably a lot more selling your picks to your, a decent sized audience, with a lot less variance than you would from simply betting, especially as the books get sharper and sharper. So, I think Winnable's been really exciting. We've been off to a really hot start. Really excited about the future of the industry. I think that we're in, the people think we're in the second inning of sports betting. I think we're in batting practice. I think we're arriving to the stadium. I think it's crypto in 2012, cannabis in 2014. Everybody thinks, oh, it's gotten so big, but little do they know it's 10% of the size it's going to grow over the next decade. And I think that, part of the Winnable story that remains to be told, but that I'm starting to see, a lot of interesting data from, is that with Winnable, you can integrate your Discord and Telegram community. So when people sign up to a subscription package on your page, they automatically get given a role in your Discord community that will give them the ability to interact with the handicapper and all of their fellow subscribers, and it creates a really strong community. There's been a lot of research around the loneliness epidemic in our country and abroad, amongst our target demographic, 18 to 50-year-old men. And I always called OnlyFans lonely fans, right? It was not porn that was being sold. It was intimacy, interaction, and a cure to loneliness, essentially. Porn's always been free on the internet. This was something more. And I think that a similar phenomenon is manifesting itself in the world of sports betting, where a lot of these lonely males, it's not just romantic loneliness that they're suffering from. It's actually more so male-to-male loneliness. I saw some crazy statistics about the percentage of people, percentage of men who report that they have one or less close friends. It's pretty sad. But what I think that might be indicating is that people are coming to Winnable, or they're coming to a handicapper for the picks, but they're staying for the community. I've been really shocked and kind of impressed to see how many people stay subscribing to a handicapper, even if they're not betting every game, or even if they're taking a break from betting. And what we're hearing is that the reason that they're staying subscribed is because they've made friends with the people in the Discord. And I can actually, kind of relate. When I was, I've got more friends than I have time for, especially, starting another company. And I still found myself in these Discords as I was researching the space, being like, oh, I wonder what, Uber Kicks, is betting on tonight. Or, oh, I know he's betting on the Lakers. Like, let me tune in and let me congratulate him or console him. And I have no fucking idea who this guy even is. I just, started chatting with him, thought he was funny in a Discord server. And I'm like, okay, if someone like me who has a pretty active social life could find a community in this way, imagine people who don't have as many friends or access to social opportunities.
It's like the sports bar.
Exactly. I think the sports bar is moving digital, and that the hub to the sports bar, being the spokes, would likely be sports betting. Because you can definitely commiserate and I think connect over a common denominator being the team that you root for. I think that when you have money on the line,
it gets amplified for sure.
It accelerates your interest in the game, and if your interest in the game is accelerated, then I think your connection to your peers who are also experiencing an accelerated interest in the game will be amplified. And I don't know how big of a role that'll play, but I do venture to guess that as sports betting becomes more and more prevalent in our country, and as loneliness becomes more and more prevalent in our country,
Unfortunately.
this might be a space where people can, scratch that itch and find some time to enjoy a game with like-minded individuals and build a community online that, might reflect or have some similarities to what you would look for, in real life.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I mean, there's nothing more exciting or more of like a bonding experience when you have a bet on with your friends. You're watching the game, win or lose. I mean, you're in it for the whole roller coaster ride from beginning to
like
end.
the sweat. But like the capper's like the bartender now,
I didn't think of it like that. That's a good
like if
comparison.
you think about it, the sports bar, people would go watch sports, even if a lot of times single men or even men married, I mean like single by themselves. Hey, at least other guys will be there watching the game. The bartender will talk to me. This is like that feeling of like community, right?
And it's less pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, like a lot of people who are suffering from, I think, loneliness and isolation, it's probably due to some level of insecurity and, going out as an adult and making friends,
Stuff.
in the day of, social media and all this shit. I think millennials and Gen Z are not as, frankly, socially equipped to go make new friends at a bar the same way that our parents and their parents
or even
were.
meet girls. Like how many? I've been to so many Hinge and Tinder weddings like lately in my life. It's just the life we live now.
Well, I mean, we're hosting our second Winnable weekend, collaborative content, networking, masterclass. Last one was in Atlanta. This one here, obviously, at our new headquarters.
Jason,
in
you
Miami.
flew in here
from New
this
York.
weekend from New York.
I mean, look at this place. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
It's a resort.
Who wouldn't want to come here? But yeah, talk about the event this weekend. Who's come? What the sort of theme is, and
I mean,
maybe future.
I think Atlanta was, an experiment. We had really great sponsors with Prize Picks, Happy Dad Seltzer, Twin Peaks Restaurants, all really like helping contribute to an awesome experience. And we really wanted to get these guys we've been working with for, in some cases over a year now, all in the same room and see if we could share some best practices. We had an amazing, speaker series with founders and executives from a lot of the top companies, ranging from, Prize Picks, TikTok, Juice Reel, Vault Sports, MKX Network. I know I'm forgetting some.
Odd Jam, Daily Grind.
Yeah,
Fantasy,
Odd Jam, Daily Grind
Matt
Fantasy.
Downs, David
Yeah,
Hurst.
Winnable executives. And we realized that, the masterclass content I think people really liked, but what people really loved was the ability to like connect and build a community with their fellow handicappers. It's not just the subscribers who might be a little bit isolated. It's also, interesting. I've seen this time and time again across many influencer industries or spaces, which is people who have a lot of followers and even make a ton of money on the internet aren't always making a lot of friends and aren't always making a lot of relationships, especially if it's something they've done full time or done since they were very young. And I think that's one of the really cool parts about Winnable is that we are creating, I think, online communities for people who are looking for that on the subscriber level. And we are now creating IRL, real life opportunities to network for our handicappers. And I think that as this community building evolves over the course of the next year, we're going to see a bit of both. I think we'll be able to start bringing the IRL events and experiences to our subscribers, not just our handicappers, and creating, an environment where the handicappers can meet these people in real life. They can meet each other. I don't think that, we're ready to say that, we're some mission-driven organization to cure loneliness. But I do think that if we can help create communities online, bring them offline, and expand upon them, that's pretty cool.
Cool.
I'm excited to see how it unfolds.
No, but I mean, it's true because being in my shoes, the capping space can be very cutthroat, but there's definitely been doing this in person in real life has been a really good experience because I haven't met half those people in person. I've only maybe met one or two in New York here and there, but it's a really good opportunity to really do that network and see other people, how they've been running their like business and things of that nature. So it's an amazing opportunity.
You learn a lot about the industry too, and other things people are doing, and obviously, just like Noah said, just getting in a room with like-minded people, sharing stories, making friends.
Well, it's
watching
also, I
videos.
mean, like similar to any creator space, it's easy to see anybody else doing what you're doing
Yeah.
as a competitor, especially when there's a sports element of it. And what I've found is that it oftentimes takes a third party or a platform or a brand to bring these people who see each other as competitors together and show them that, you know, in most industries, it's ultimately the best team that wins.
for sure.
And if you team up with some of these guys, find mutually beneficial ways to collaborate, whether that's content, whether that's picks, whatever, you know, opportunity there may be, that you can go a lot further together and you can make a lot more money. You can build a stronger brand. You can grow your audience. You know, there's undeniably some competitive elements, and I think, you know, you have to navigate that, you know, on a case-by-case basis. But what I was really impressed and excited about coming out of Atlanta was that a lot of guys who I think might have been apprehensive about working with one another day one or seeing each other as potential competitors day one, by day 4, we're all, you know, high-fiving, hanging out, shooting videos together, you know, taking shots of tequila, whatever, riding the mechanical bull. Like I think, you know, the barrier was broken, and it has been a launch board for a lot of really productive collaboration that we've seen on Winnable, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, and I'm excited to see that continue.
And a lot of fun. Just also a good time, right? Atlanta was
Tons
a
of
great
fun.
time.
Yeah, it was hopefully fun for everyone. It was very stressful to put
for you,
together,
yeah.
but
No, it was stress.
Yeah, well, hopefully this weekend he has more help. I went and got a whole bunch of stuff just now.
The Winnable team has more than doubled
Yeah,
since Atlanta.
exactly.
You know, that was the day we landed in Atlanta was the day, you know, the wire from Inspired,
Yeah.
our lead investor, hit. So, you know, even though we'd signed a term sheet, even though, you know, the legal DD was going well,
The stress didn't end.
we were operating on a relatively shoestring budget with a relatively skeleton crew, you know, really just founders full time. And since then, you know, we've added to the team. I've been really excited. You know, I think, you know, the way we raised money was, I think, very intentional for our cap table to convey credibility based on who is on it rather than how much was in it, you know, in the early days, especially. And I think that that same approach has been recognized or realized in our hiring, you know, bringing on the best and the brightest, I think, people with really strong resumes and experience, not only to make sure Winnable is successful, but to also make sure that all of our handicappers are successful. I think every handicapper on our platform could be looked at as a startup. And by having a team that has so much startup experience, willing and able to help consult and guide and provide more than just a tech-enabled solution, but also provide strategic guidance, is very valuable. You know, I think most of our creators recognize that, and if they don't, they will. And you know, you might not see it in our marketing materials, but every single person on the Winnable team has commanded some pretty hefty consulting fees at some point in their career.
Yeah,
and
miss those.
yeah, yeah. You know.
No, but like Jason, you mentioned this, that handicapping can be a really cutthroat business. And to Noah's point about team, I think it's like a lot of handicappers, successful ones, don't realize that they're going to battle out there, right? And to go into a battle as a one-man army,
It's
I mean,
tough.
good luck, right? So really, I think with Winnable, we're really trying to, you know, provide you with an infantry, a navy, and air support, you know, as much as we possibly can.
Yep. It's 100% true. Like, ever since the Atlanta event that I went to, I've done tons of collaborations with other handicappers, other content creators. I've gotten new ideas from even speaking to those people. So, I mean, it's an amazing network to be a part of, 1,000%.
Back to the point about SMS.
Yeah.
One of the things that actually Dr. Profit and I, you know, Will Sod, you know, have discussed quite a bit is that the only thing that pisses off a subscriber more than a losing streak is a winning streak where they didn't get the bet in time and they missed the bet or got the wrong line and lost. And I think that that's something that as a handicapper you need to be thinking about is growth does not only come in the form of adding new subscribers, it's also about retention. This is an
course.
inherently high churn space. You're already going to struggle, I think, to win at a rate necessary to avoid this sort of inherent churn that defines space. But you want to give yourself every opportunity to do so, and using the SMS to ensure that your hot streaks don't go overlooked is the most important part in my mind of retention. Another thing that I wanted to make sure we talked about is our ability to source and provide upper range CPAs for the handicappers on our site. A lot of the cappers that we work with have a CPA from a pick-a-map or a sports book, but it's much lower than what we're able to negotiate at an enterprise level. And the reason that we're able to negotiate higher CPAs, and even after, the platform fee we take, give them a higher CPA than they would receive going directly, is because we have been able to really help the sports books and pick-a-maps with their CAC to LTV ratio. These are industries that have been kind of defined by customer acquisition costs being very high and lifetime value of customer being very inconsistent. What we're able to do is show them, hey, the average subscriber on Winnable is paying, let's say, $50 per week for picks, and they're self-reporting that that's less than 10% of their weekly bankroll. That means this person is betting $2,000, over $2,000 per month at the sportsbook, which puts them in the top 0.1% of sports bettors globally. The sports books are willing to pay a lot more for that first-time depositor than they will for a random TikTok or Instagram or YouTuber who might make a $20 deposit, trigger the CPA to the capper, and then never bet again for their entire life. So, back to, I think, the sort of core message here is that Winnable has been, I think, very deliberately built, and our infrastructure and focus is very, deliberately thought out to add as much value to the creators at a technological infrastructure level, but also at an organizational level where we're constantly evaluating, the value proposition and what's going to help you guys, succeed in every facet of your business.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, Noah. I think that I want to end all of these podcasts with these guests. You don't have to get into analysis. You don't have to say why, but some bet you're betting on, and on a major event coming up. So let's go with the NBA Finals, right? We're in playoffs. Who is winning the NBA Finals, Noah? You don't have to give analysis. If you want, you can. But who's winning? You got to place a bet.
Today's
Who you betting on?
April 26th, Friday.
Right. April 26th, Friday. Got rounds to go, but let's see if you're right.
Honestly, I'm making such a big sports bet right now
So you could talk
that's made it hard to really dig in to the NBA playoffs. Obviously, betting my career and all my time on Winnable is probably
that's a cop-out.
the biggest sports bet I've ever made in my life. But as far as the NBA Finals, if I had to bet right now on a futures bet, I'd probably go with Denver. They're far from my favorite team. I'm from Portland. I'm a big Blazers fan. I would love to see the Bucks win a championship so Dame can come back to Portland and finish his career on a veteran's minimum salary. A la LeBron in Cleveland, maybe get us one.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Someday, but
I don't think he has that capability.
But yeah, I think the Nuggets are looking pretty.
So you already hear Nuggets. Let's see if he's right.
We'll fast forward this to when the finals come. Noah could be right. We'll see.
We'll spin it back. We'll give a little flashback. But thanks for joining us, Noah. It was really interesting to hear this story. And stay tuned for more. Like, subscribe, comment. We'll respond back. And hope you tune into the next one.
Thanks, Noah. Talk to you
Thanks,
guys
guys.
soon.